Oh, very me. Straight to coughing. Morning, everyone. Welcome, Destiny. How are you?
Hello, Chris. Good morning, everybody. How are things? Hope
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Well, apart from the financial stress in the world and all the exciting news this week with the Fed bringing out their inflation, no, their interest rate announcements. Woohoo! Lots to look forward to. That'll be on Wednesday. Anyway, that's not today's subject. Today's subject is about the need to meet physically.
With other
And
people.
yeah, like actually like being in the same room and stuff like that. And like this is a really interesting topic. Um, I mean, there's an old saying which is, "I won't make a decision unless I can see the other person, the whites of the eyes." Like look the person in the face
In the
directly.
eye.
And we got to talking about this, and I guess it's all a little bit more real these days because there was a time in 2020 when we couldn't. Well, we could, but the authorities were saying, "Yeah, don't go
Don't.
around meet other people because you're gonna kill other people's grandmothers and all this kind of stuff." Anyway, enough about that. But there were people who were, and I guess if you couldn't go and meet someone, even if it was a family member where there's no contract being discussed or business deal or whatever, if it's just family, there's all the hugging and closeness and everything else in families, and people became lonely and disconnected, and that highlights perhaps the importance of physically meeting. um, is that loneliness disappears and you can bounce. You can basically just, that proximity of being close to people has must, and we know it does, it must have an impact on our lives. And consequently, we understand that there is this inherent need to meet physically, but analyzing it a little bit more, it's like, why?
Mhm.
Why? And yeah, one of the things we mentioned was that, like, having a Zoom call like this, how much how much information am I getting about your responses or what's going back and forth that my mind and my me essentially can grasp of what's going on with you. I've got a snapshot in front of me, and you can agree with me, you can smile, you can do all these things, but do I really understand what's going on? And that's the ultimate question, because we're not meeting physically here. And yeah, my senses, none of my touch, my um, I'm basically looking at myself here, really, and you're there on the side, and because I'm talking to a camera, I'm not even looking at you. So there's no, it's like
So
it's a
it's
poor
a complete jumble.
substitute, isn't it, for being in the room with someone? And that's really the point of this podcast is, we are deprived of of that abundance of information that we get from, like you were saying, 90% of communication is non-verbal. And I think, we don't even study that, do we, really? If you go to school, like, how much, like, oh, today we're going to do non-verbal communication, the kids look at you and they go, what are you talking about?
Yeah, well, there is this saying that was it 90% or whatever, like a big number of communication is non-verbal. So you can say, or you don't even need to say things to people when we are together in the same room, and they will know, they will judge, they will have an idea of what your opinion on a certain subject is.
Or,
And I was thinking it's not just the senses that we know. It's not just the smell and the touch and the taste. Obviously, you don't taste people, but it's not about these physical senses, really. Maybe apart from the hearing and the um, sight, like looking and hearing what the other person is saying. But it's also noticing how their hands are, how their position is, how are they sitting, how are they walking, how are they, whatever the situation. But it's not just that. And we're going now into the field of a little bit of a, well, we could call it woo-woo,
Quantum
but
physics.
it's quite real actually. Um, we have this aura around us. We have this energy, and if you imagine it as a torus, it's like a donut, like a fat donut. So the energy goes through the middle of our body and then it goes outside. If we are the middle is the whole of the donut, the energy goes in circles in all direction. And this is our biofield. And when we are into another person's biofield, our two fields can exchange information. You touch each other on a different level, not just the body, but energetically. And here is where gut feeling comes into place. You know, you meet someone and you immediately know that something is wrong or something is right and something is great, something is different. You don't know why, but you know it. And if you are well connected and self aware with your own body's responses about how your body is feeling, then you will know that something is happening with on the other side with the other person. How does that work? That's one explanation because we have these energy bodies and they just
I
you
mean,
can feel and adjust.
maybe the experiences of being with a large number of people helps us to very, very quickly pick up on things and therefore get these hunches or these gut feels or stuff because we've experienced in the way we've interacted with others, and in general we get these views that it may be a bit judgmental, but yeah, we're filtering all the time, aren't we? And
Mm,
if I come on and I'm like, you're going to go, oh, what's going on then? What's up? Because I look a bit like depressed or hunched over or something. When if I come on and I'm, hey, morning, like it's like, oh, he's in a good mood, isn't he? It's like, what's all that about? And I don't even have to say anything. It's like I'm just smiling and, oh, you seem like a bit on top of the world today. What's happened? Like you're going to ask a question, aren't you? Like, or if I'm walking down the road and I've got a little bit of a limp, you can be, what's going on? Like it's like you've noticed that I haven't said anything, but there's something that's changed. It's not quite the same as it was, and all of this stuff's non-verbal. And even Victoria in Hungary, in Budapest, she's running workshops on non-verbal communication, and a lot of people find it really quite a challenge to look into somebody's eyes, like, because they say the eyes are the window to the soul. It's like if you're
mm,
looking into someone's eyes directly for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, it's quite an interesting exercise because a lot of people kind of, and that's why when you meet someone and they don't look at your face, they look at your eyes, they're kind of always like, oh hi, yeah, I'm okay, or yeah, what's going on then? And then there's a quick, and then they're off again, and it's like, what's going on there?
yeah.
What's going on?
It's yeah, from my experience, when I have not been able to look at another person's face and look them in the eye, it's always been my issue of having a problem with that person. And it's
Or
my own problem where I've perceived that they've wronged me in a way, and I can't look at them in the eye because I don't trust my own reaction. I might say something that I regret, or I don't feel strong enough to say it because, again, how my perception is. But it's always a good sign to know. For me, if I can't look at someone in the eye, that means I've got work to do. Something's happened with me, my perception, that needs adjusting.
Well, maybe there's just too much going on inside the head. Like at the end of the day, like one of the things, one of the sayings is tomorrow's another day, right? Tomorrow is another day, a fresh start, when everything could have changed overnight and you don't know. And if you're carrying around these problems about other people, it's like it affects today.
It does.
If you carry it around, it's like the sleep is like there's a cut-off point. Like that was yesterday, and unless it's like a long-term problem, like say you've had a shouting match with someone and like you've been swearing at someone and they've been annoying you, tomorrow's a different day, isn't it? It's like something might have happened overnight and that person's completely different. And if you're carrying around all yesterday's problems as well, it's like your reaction with them today when they may be in real need of something and like your support, and you're carrying around yesterday's grievances. It's like
And it's usually my ego that's being a little triggered. And I read something about this when your ego is triggered, it's like your soul is having a bit of a giggle and a fun time because it needs to grow, and this ego is in the way. So you better get a little bit of a bump. But I was also trying to, I was thinking as well while we were talking about looking at people's eyes, is we know that this came from Louise Hay, where you look into a mirror and you kind of go close to the mirror so you can just see your eyes and your face. And you just look at yourself in the mirror and you say these loving messages of I love you and you're beautiful, etc., whatever comes to your head. But it's interesting how this can work with another person. And we have in Psyche this balance, which we call it a relationship balance. And the only way that this can actually do anything and can happen is, and then the beginning of it is where you look at each other with the person who's doing the balance, or the two people who need to balance their relationship. They look into each other's eyes for at least 30 seconds so they can have this contact. And then we go on and engage with the balance further on afterwards. But it's interesting to know that when you kind of look into each other's eyes for that long period of time, but not less, something happens. They become in tuned, the two people become in tuned with each other, and then they know they kind of change. So if they have a bit of an issue to work on, one of them will probably have more issue than the other, and if they disengage this look, the gaze, then they go back to being normal. So something happens with our intention and being close together on a non-verbal level that we kind of like, much like the tuning forks, if you hit one, the next one, which is a few meters away, will pick up the same vibration. So this is, forgotten the name of it, entrainment, yes. It's like an entrainment on a physical, quantum physics or whatever level, is where one person picks up the energy of the other or attunes to their way of vibrating. And it only happens without even touching or any of the other senses. It's just a gaze.
Yeah, and I mean that hence the reason why, like people fly all over the world if the important contract or important discussion needs to take place. The world leaders do it, don't they? They go and have a summit or a meeting somewhere because they, I mean, I think today's people have kind of borrowed the idea from the past and not really doing very much. To be honest, that's my gut feel.
They're just having a holiday.
Having a photo opportunity because it's more about popularity than it is about doing anything constructive. And of course, popularity sways the masses. In Rome, the mob was the thing you needed to cater for, the general
Hmm.
opinion. Yeah, we haven't grown up, have we? We haven't got any better at it. This whole idea, what was going on in Rome in the last days. You can physically see it now: sexual perversion, popularity. Like disgraceful acts of all sorts of loss of morality. We're in the same
Hmm.
space. Like people lying, blatantly lying, blatantly doing the wrong thing, and they go, "No, it wasn't me."
I didn't do it.
It's like with the 5-year-olds, like, lying without cause for redress. Like it's just disgraceful, and yet it's going on. So I think basically this whole idea of non-verbal communication and understanding where we've come from and the fact how important it is, and not just doing stuff on Zoom, although we can't argue that it enabled people to stay in contact, and the fact that all video conferencing now enables people who are in Australia, New Zealand to communicate with the rest of the world, and all over the place. We're no more than a mouse click away from being able to talk to people we care about all over the world. And people will say, well, you don't need to go there, do you? Yeah, but you do, really. What we're saying here is that you can't beat physical
Yeah.
connection for the simple reason that that's all we've had for like a millennia or more. Yeah, like we've only
Well,
just
we are not just these bodies that just live inside ourselves. We also connect with others. So why do people still want to go to conventions? Why do people still want to go to have big parties? Because there is something about the energy of lots of people elevating together and being happy and excited together, and you kind of pick up this vibe and your energy raises up. And we're talking about entrainment earlier. This is what happens. You go into a place full of happy people, you can't stay miserable for too long. You
I
will
mean,
kind of get along and become a little bit happier.
this is what religion is all about, of course, with chanting and everybody going to a church, and like although everybody is about 1.5% of the population in this country, so it's not exactly like a roaring success at the moment, is it? But but like the thing is that there is something about it. I mean, like in the past, like you go back to 150 years, if you were living in a village, which everybody kind of did in those days, if you didn't go to church on the Sunday, your whole family was almost like excommunicated from the village.
But they really wanted to do it because that was
Yeah,
their only time to catch up with other people.
yeah,
Not
absolutely.
about work, but about other things.
Yeah, and I think I did a blog post on this. Did like closing one day of the week, Sunday, like everybody closing on the same day. Was it a religious thing, or was it just a sensible idea, and then religion grabbed it? But like if I say, oh, I want a day off this week, and everybody has a different day off, you don't know where you are, do you? But so basically, having the same day off meant that you could rely on the fact that all the other days the places would be open, and it's a sensible thing to for the community to agree on a day when they can have a rest day, and then religion comes along and goes, oh yeah, that's a religious day, seventh day God rested and all this, or sixth day if you're a Seventh Day Adventist, whatever, and suddenly it's like it's a religious day. Well, how do before religion was it a religious day, or did they all have random days off? Like, oh, it's
I
Tuesday.
don't
I'm gonna I'm gonna go and
concept
get.
of a
Huh?
day off. They probably didn't have the concept of a day off
Oh no, but
those days.
you can't work all the time. Yeah, that must have dawned on people very early on. I mean, you can't just work.
Don't know.
So yeah, you go down to get your horse reshoed, and the guy's having a day off. Like he's saying, hang on a minute, why is everybody else working and the guy doing the horseshoes isn't working today? So anyway, that's a side issue. But I think like going back to it, this physical thing has been highlighted because of this I use the word reservedly, pandemic. Um, so people began to appreciate the importance of it. And, coming from a background of networking, this is interesting because, with networking, obviously it's about physically meeting people. And I don't know how many times I've tried to persuade myself when I'm going to a meeting the next day to not go because I really know I've got lots to do, and this meeting's kind of like just what is it really? It's not really working. That's what people used to say. And then you turn up and like almost like oh another bloody meeting, and you turn up and then you go through it and you come away and you go, I'm so glad I went. Why? Because you've opened up something inside of you. You've spoke to people. You've got a bit of a buzz. You've got some opportunities come along. You've learned something, and all the little touch points have all been placated. And you go away and you say, "Wow, that was amazing! Best meeting ever." Like, I don't know how many times I've said that, and it's all about meeting, isn't it? It's all about meeting.
It also helps you to have a bit of a change in mindset because when you're working on your own, in your office, on the different jobs that you've got to do, it becomes very repetitive and boring, and you kind of become like tunnel visioned. And having going out and meeting other people, they will give you another
Perspective.
there will be another topic of a conversation. So the tunnel vision opens up and maybe disappears altogether because you forget about your problems that you couldn't solve and you had this um, issue with the software not working or whatever. Something wasn't quite panning out the way you were. You had a problem. And you go out and you talk to people, and all of a sudden the topic is completely different. You forgot about your problem. You come back, you have a fresh pair of eyes on you as if, and boom, the problem is solved. It wasn't
Yeah,
even that difficult to solve. You just needed to distance yourself a little bit. And so it gives you this fresh mindset and fresh
I mean, it's not just business. I mean, like,
ideas. Yeah.
like there is so much turmoil in the world today. Really, there's a lot of turmoil, and some people don't want to discuss it. They want to bury their head in the sand, and they'll be the ones that unfortunately will get caught out by everything. Or there'll be the people that realistically look at it and say, I need to understand what's going on here because it impacts decision making. And I need to be aware because to not be aware is worse than to be aware, to be honest, even though it comes with potential to get a little bit dismal and
Scared and
scared
maybe.
and stuff. But to
Mm.
be honest, even if the worst imaginable thing happens, it's not as bad as being in a corner with a saber-toothed tiger in front of you, right? And you've got no weapons, right? It's like we'll still be here tomorrow, but the circumstances will be changed. And like this comes back to Zen once again. It's all cause and effect. There is no person deciding what's going to happen for everybody in some ether space. There's just not. It's like there's nobody out there going, right, I'm going to give Chris a bad day today, right? That bad day isn't a bad day. It's a day of circumstances which I didn't enjoy as much as some other days where they were much better for me, right? And there's no good or bad. There's just things. And I think we need to understand things because things are going on, and sometimes we need to understand them. Because if you go to take 50 quid out of the cash till and it doesn't work, that's a problem. Because presumably you went to the cash till because you needed some money. Now you haven't got any money, and that means no dinner, no this, no that, no whatever, no travel, no. So ultimately, we need to be aware of how likely that scenario could happen, and burying your
And
head
then
in
you
the
will need people to help you. That's
and
how the physical contact will be very useful.
and yeah, we need to understand things. But there is a danger, especially of going and meeting people and finding out stuff you don't really want to know about. But
Mm.
you know, you don't want to know about it because you fill in the gaps. Makes you scared, makes you fright. What does it do? The answer is none of that is what that's about. That's how you've interpreted the data and decided
Mm.
to respond. It's your responsibility to basically try and put yourself in the best space possible, isn't it? Without
Yeah,
knowledge,
it's the same as when I can't look at people's eyes when I'm feeling a bit upset about them or something. Same
well,
thing.
we had a classic case yesterday, didn't we? With, you know, like, we could go into details, but where someone had taken somebody else's property, and that person behaved so differently, knowing that I'm likely to know that they've done this. And you don't have to be a psychological specialist
Psychologist.
to see what's going on. It was a microcosm of human involvement and thinking. And you know, these people aren't brains of Britain either. They're just going about their daily business. Someone decided to take someone else's property, then they got caught, and then oh yeah, like it was a cringe moment, right? And but I just carried on as normal because it's not my problem, is it?
Yeah.
You know, they, you know, like, I'm not responsible for all this cringiness. But
It's interesting how to change the subject. It's you say there is this we are it's an ancient saying we're each take we are what was it we're taking leading each other home.
taking it, yeah, we're walking each other home.
We're walking each other home, and this is what we're doing when we're meeting together physically.
Mm.
Um,
I think
we are
I think it comes down to, just to sort of sum it up, really, is like we, in order for us to have a complete experience with someone else, we have to really be able to absorb all of the information that's coming from that person in order to form this relationship. And there is only one way we can get that information, and that's if we're in the same place. If we're,
and in the same place, and then listening to our body's reaction to response to
yeah, I mean, this is a thing that I didn't appreciate
meeting.
just now until you mentioned it, is that all of this electronic communication is essentially dumbing us down, or creating a scenario where we are basically functioning with information missing. So we're making poorer decisions. We're not clear, and we're getting used to not having that information delivered to us because we're not meeting these people. And that
Mm.
means that we start to, it's like you keep using a tool and you never sharpen it because you never get to the place where you can sharpen it. It just gets blunt. And
This is exactly what it is. We are becoming less and less sensitive and less aware of our own bodies
mm,
because we're always in the head, because we're always on the what's this electronic devices.
mm. Which, you
And
know,
even my son the other day, he says, "Oh, I can't really do this. I'm just so stressed." I said, "Stop. Go and do some push-ups. Go and do something physical. Go back into your body because you
go do
are
an
too
allotment.
long into
Go do
you're
your
too much in your head. Go and do some quick exercise, like run on spot, do some star jumps, do something. Get back into your body because your body is all you have."
mm. Well, your mind is
And
all.
he did. And then he did. And I think, oh, I feel better now.
I think clearly mind, however you want to interpret that, it doesn't mean this thing in here, that's the brain. Mind, whatever mind is to you, is all we have. But part of that is essentially ensuring that we are able to use our mind, whatever, you know, that's touch, that's everything, our senses. We have to ensure that we are functioning on all of those levels. And of course, exercise and, you know, getting the blood flowing and oxygenation and all that is important, because otherwise we kind of just, I don't know, we're stale, aren't we? We're stale and
Mm.
overwhelmed with information that's we're trying to force in, and it doesn't want to go because it's just not we're not in receiving mode. We're in sleep or exercise mode, and we need to get there and fast. But I think this blunting of our humanity is becoming a pandemic. It's like, we really do need to, link for growth, which is, we talked about it before. It's a really important function, but it needs to change because society has changed. The problems we're experiencing are different than they were before. Yeah, I have to say that, there are people that are not the same as they were before the pandemic now. Not one or two, half probably of the people are now looking at the world differently to what they were before. Some of that is a good thing, some of it isn't so good. And I'm using my own personal perception there. Some people choose, well, everyone's choosing to do what they want to do pretty much, but is it good for them? I don't know. It's certainly they're not the same. And
Excuse me.
So anyway, that was the need to meet physically. It's it's not gone away. It might be more difficult.
I've started sneezing now.
All right, well,
Let's see if
obviously
I can stop it by doing this. Apparently, you do this to stop you sneezing.
it's touched the nerve there somewhere then.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you found this interesting, then please do like it down below and also subscribe, because then you'll be notified of any new topics. And we've got quite a few interesting things coming up, so you might want to do that. And thank you for watching, and see you all soon. So thanks, Tessie.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye
Thank you for watching, guys. Bye for now.